From Screen to Shelf. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of From Screen to Shelf. As always, I am Will. I am joined by Gabe and Chase, and it is Thanksgiving week here in the States.
Woohoo!
Thanksgiving week, folks. Everybody's getting ready to carve up those turkeys and have unnecessary political arguments with relatives, so it's going to be a good week for everybody. But
Or the
we're going to be talking... Yeah, exactly. But we're gonna be talking about Thanksgiving themed films. Now, they don't necessarily have to revolve around Thanksgiving itself, but any movie that I guess would be considered a Thanksgiving movie is just something that you watch around this time of year. People watch Christmas movies around Thanksgiving. They watch buddy adventure comedy movies, cop movies, crime films. November's also noir month for a lot of people, so a lot of different watch lists that are being fulfilled right now. But we're going to talk specifically about movies that we relate with or connect with Thanksgiving. So we each picked a movie, I believe, right, gentlemen?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
we're going to get right into it. So, Gabe, I don't know if you want to open up and talk about your pick.
Man. Mine's the most standard, campiest, just
Unique.
predictable pick. Yeah, I don't know if it's
Yeah.
unique. It's the most
One of a
predictable
kind.
pick. One of a kind. I actually chose a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, which is
Yeah.
hilarious just because I don't watch a lot of animated movies. Like, I mean, I like animated movies, but I'm not too big into them. But I've always appreciated the Charlie Brown animated movies and the show itself. So, but I mean, I think with this movie, the reason I chose this one is just out of pure nostalgia. Like, this was a movie that I personally... It was shown in school. We'd watch it every week. Every Thanksgiving week, it'd be on TV, and it was just like pumped out so much that I'd always watch it. And I actually, it never turned into a situation where I got bored watching it. It was always fun to watch it, and I always still laugh at a lot of the jokes and a lot of like the plot elements. Because it's a short, funny, quick movie that you could sit down and watch like with your family or by yourself, and it's always a good time. The premise is silly. You get what is it, Peppermint Patty calling Charlie Brown saying that, hey, we need to do Thanksgiving, or she's pretty much inviting herself to Thanksgiving, and then he's stressing out and needs to buy all this stuff, and everyone's coming, and it's just a fun little movie, man. And I think it's honestly just probably the pure nostalgia of it that kind of made me choose it. And I think it's still just it plays all the time. I mean, I think even in 2023, it's playing on TV, and even like kids are still relating to it. I know at least my little cousins, like, they watch it sometimes, and they still have a blast with it. So for a movie that was, I want to say it was like 70s, right? Early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure.
Let me see here. Yeah, 73. So a movie from the 1973 that can, get even our newer generation off their iPads and iPhones and be able to sit down and watch it on TV. I think that still says that there's something special about it. And anything with Charles Schultz, I'm a sucker for. So I think it's a solid movie. It's a warm movie. It's funny. It's quick, and it's something that, like, no matter how many times you watch it, you still kind of get that feeling you did the first time that you seen it. Because I remember the first time I saw it was with my family. It was at my cousin's house, and we're all just sitting down watching it. A lot of us, we were young at the time, and it was a fun movie. We had some adults in the living room watching it with us, and everyone's laughing, having a good time with it. And I still kind of get that same vibe with it each time I watch it. So it's a very, I wouldn't say unique choice, but it's something that I like watching and I still enjoy. I don't think there's a 4K for it, right?
For the Thanksgiving? Yep.
No, it's on Blu. Oh, there is?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure in that trilogy, yeah. In that one we were talking about?
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
So
let
I
me
gotta
double
get.
check.
See, I'm super behind, man.
I
I
think
don't
it's
know
on
how
sale on
the
Best Buy. It's part of the $9 Best Buy deal.
Yeah,
because
it's
I'd be
the Peanuts
interesting.
holiday anniversary one. Is that the
Yeah.
one I'm
Oh,
thinking of? It's like
see,
a,
dude,
Yep.
I'm so behind.
a
I'm
Thanksgiving.
curious to see like how I'd imagine it's just like the HDR just makes it look a little bit
Yeah, I have it.
pop a little
It's
bit
good.
more.
And because I mean, it's I don't know if it's cell, but I know it's film, so it actually does it some pretty decent justice.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
And it's cool seeing the traditional animation style, you know what I mean? Like, at least for me, I think what gets me out of a lot of animation movies today is just like, it's all that Pixar style, right? Ever since, Toy Story, it's just been nonstop, just that kind of Pixar CGI animation, which it's beautiful to look at, but it's always
Mm.
cool getting that old school style of animation and watching that and kind of like you get a different perspective on things watching a lot of older takes on animation. So
Yeah,
I appreciate it for that. Just I think it's a good break from all the Pixar and CGI movies that come out that kids are like glued to the screen on. Plus, it's not it's a little bit different in the sense that it's not like a lot of the movies today where it's just like lots of colors, lots of spectacle, lots of cuts, and just like fast pace. It's like this very slow paced kind of chill movie, and it's cool. Like I
Mm.
said, seeing the kids watch it, that and they still relate to it, even though it's not like a lot of the movies that they're seeing today. So I think that says that there's something special about it. I'm a sucker for Snoopy too, so
Hmm.
I think that helps. But yeah, Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, guys. That's my unique pick. I tried to go like with something more unique. I was gonna say Rocky. I know you really can't talk a lot about the Thanksgiving scene in Rocky. I mean, it's pretty intense, but I think I like the nostalgia and the tradition of Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. So that
Yeah,
that was my pick.
It's a good movie to kind of fit into your like viewing schedule too. Like, what is it? Only I think it's only half an hour, right? The
yeah,
runtime.
short.
So
Yeah,
it's like
I think 30
perfect to
minutes
be
if
able to
that.
like. Yeah, it's a good movie to squeeze in there if you're like on time constraints. But yeah, I mean, I relate to that too because I mean, I think my parents used to show us that when we were kids. I don't know if we watched it in school. I know we watched like the Charlie Brown Christmas
Hmm.
in elementary school like for a couple years in a row, but I don't remember the Thanksgiving short. But yeah, I mean, I used to watch it when we were kids too. It was like that movie. And then for Christmas, obviously Charlie Brown Christmas and Christmas Story and movies like that. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's I would say that's like essential viewing. And I was happy to hear that like your nephews or your nieces are into that because it's
yeah.
great that it has like cross generational appeal as well. Because I always wondered that about like is Charlie Brown one of those stories that like can kind of translate over to newer generations. So it's good to know that they took interest in it.
Well, I know they made that. I forgot about that movie. Actually, they did do like a CGI-ish kind of Charlie Brown movie a few years back, wasn't it? I think it was like
Yeah, it
7
was
years
actually pretty
ago.
good. Yeah,
It wasn't too
Yeah.
bad, yeah.
yeah,
But just to kind of, but I think what I appreciate about that one too is like it still kind of takes this kind of slow vibe. Like it's not like this, loud, quick cuts, kind of like what the kids are used to watching these days. It's still kind of like a very just chill, nostalgic movie. And I think they took a lot of what they did with these earlier installments. And I hate even calling it a movie because it's 30 minutes long. I always called it a movie growing up as a kid. Like to me, it was always a movie. So even though it's 30 minutes long, I still call it a movie today. But I do think it does have that cross generational appeal. I think a lot of people enjoy it, whether they're old, younger. Even me, I like sitting down and watching it sometimes. It's still funny. I chuckle at some of the scenes. So I
Mm.
think it's just very relatable movie. You know what I mean? Just because you got Charlie Brown trying to he's stressing out, trying to get everything ready for Thanksgiving, and the adults relate to that, and the kids are laughing at Snoopy and all the silly stuff that happens. So it's a very cross generational movie for sure.
Cool. Chase, did you have any, or what's I should say, what's your pick for Thanksgiving? I know there's some other movies you wanted to talk about, but if you could talk about your Thanksgiving pick first and foremost.
yeah. So my very, very, very first pick for Thanksgiving is going to be the legendary 4K remastered Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Um, and I say that for a good reason because I think it was a perfect time to really, really talk about it. I skipped out on it last year because I had just gotten the Blu-ray, the Steelbook, and then I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth because they already got me with Wayne's World to double dip because it was the same exact Steelbook. So I kind of was salty and I've been waiting to give them my money. But with all the disdain for that 4K transfer, I figured it'd be a perfect time to put myself through that. So I did happen to get it and I watched it, and I am here to tell you and dispel the myths and all of the slander about that 4K transfer. Before I go in there, the 4K, the thing that really got me to go in for it was the deleted scenes. I kept forgetting about that. And then, especially around this time of the year in the Discord and the Reddit, it's tending to pop up. Yeah, go ahead and get it. And then there's been some more people that are kind of having the take I'm going to present here about it. Whenever it comes to it, it's not bad. Yeah, it has some DNR and stuff like that. But there's a reason why whenever you go in and you look at those deleted scenes, I forget the John, who was the director for this again?
Let me see here.
They
search it up for you.
Yeah, they found
John Hughes.
John Hughes.
John Hughes.
So whenever you go and watch, because it does come with the Blu-ray that doesn't have the movie on it, it only has some restored scenes and the deleted scenes, and it has a preface before it and a disclaimer saying that these are very, very rough because they were ripped off of a VHS.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went and watched those, because I've seen that movie multiple times, when I went and watched those scenes and then went and watched the movie, how can you not say that's the best that movie's ever looked? That movie, those extended scenes were really hard to make a lot of things out. It was dull, it was washed out. But again, it made sense. There was a disclaimer there for a reason. But even then, there were parts where they had to, for like the extended scenes, it'd be in the VHS quality and then the remastered quality. So I'm here to tell you that, I mean, this is the best the movie will ever look. The source material is very, very rough. They didn't expect this to be a legendary movie, have a cult status. It was good for its time, and it was definitely one of those word-of-mouth type of movies at that time as well. But the 4K, I think, yeah, there's some scenes where it looks like it's not Terminator where they look waxy, It's just, I think people need to calm their expectations that just because something's 4K remastered, like with Charlie Brown, it's not amazing, right? But it's the best that will ever look, right? You never hear people talk about a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving on 4K being reference quality. But we also have to kind of qualm our expectations about the source material, understand how things were handled, like Citizen Kane. We're lucky that movie's even around, As far as I'm aware, the original camera negative of that one was burned in a warehouse decades ago. So they have to use a nitrate to every time that they're restoring it. They're using a nitrate interpositive, I believe is what it is. So like this movie just really looks really, really rough. But again, some of the scenes, they look great. The HDR adds a very nice coat of paint. The automobiles part where they're driving down the highway looks awesome. The conversation, the dialogue. I think it looks, at worst a 6 out of 10, especially whenever you bring yourself down to reality and have a sense of understanding about what goes into it. And then now that that's out of the way for the movie itself, I mean, it's legendary, you've got Steve Martin and John Candy. How can you not like that? That's an iconic duo right there. That's setting up a comedy for legendary status, as how I view it. It's very good. If you haven't seen it, it's just about two guys that are trying to get back to Chicago, and they can't because their flight is delayed and then canceled. So they take it upon themselves to go on a planes, trains, and automobiles-based journey to try to get back to Chicago. And so they get up to some hijinks, and Steve Martin does not like John Candy's character, and I love John Candy's character. It's just a nuisance from beginning to end, and honestly, it's one of those few movies that you wouldn't expect to tug at your heartstrings towards the end. It's got some very emotional scenes. It's very, very emotionally investing, especially if you buy into the characters, which I think everybody that watches it does. I think that, to me, is the pinnacle of a great Thanksgiving movie, because that's the whole point. He needs to get back in time for his Thanksgiving dinner, right? That movie to me is like a 9 out of 10, a 10 out of 10. It's a great movie. I love it. It's one of, I think I've talked about this before, comedy is one of the roughest genres to try to get into. Because if you don't laugh, it's a waste of your time, And you very rarely, if you watch a comedy and it hits in the middle, will you go, it was okay, you know what I mean? It's either a waste of your time or you laughed, I feel like, when it comes to comedy. So, that's my little spiel on planes, trains, and automobiles, and how we need to accept more 4K transfers for the labor of love that they are, and then why I love that movie so much. It's a fantastic movie.
Your eyes didn't bleed when you watched it, pretty much.
No. I didn't feel disrespected. Like, there was a comment I read whenever that thing was first. I feel disrespected that they put this out. Well, I mean, disrespected. Like, come on, man. You feel like
Yeah.
Paramount put a note in your copy saying, "Hey, dear X, Y, and Z, we messed up this restoration on your behalf. Enjoy." Like, no, it's just it's what they could do. I know
Did
Paramount's
they
got a hit or miss type of reputation nowadays, though.
how was the audio? Did they change the audio for that movie?
I
Was there
believe
an
it's
Atmos mix,
5.1
right?
still.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's either 5.1 or stereo. But yeah, and the deleted scenes, there's some good ones, but I mean, there's some that I'm happy were deleted. I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's
Oh, really?
one, yeah, it's an hour and 11 minutes whenever you combine the extended and deleted scenes.
Oh, wow.
Because you know how on most deleted features you can press like play all or you can go to the specific ones. I believe there's 3 full-on deleted scenes, and then there's 8 or 9 extended ones. And there's just one where, like, they're on the plane whenever after his taxi gets taken by John Candy's character, and they're sitting on the plane uncomfortably. I want to say it adds an extra 6 or 7 minutes of just dialogue between the two.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that was cut flat out, and then it kind of jumps to the quality that was remastered, and then lets it finish, and then it continues. And then there is a couple of the deleted scenes I think they should have left. Like, there was just some really good ones. Some of them are a little bit goofy and would probably take you out of that realm of reality because of the way that Steve Martin's character sees them in the deleted scenes. But yeah, I think it's worth picking it for $15. If you like the movie, pick it up, support it. It's not like Terminator 2 just got rumored that they're going to be re-releasing a new remaster. This movie's not going to look
No
better.
way, really?
Oh yeah, you didn't hear about that?
No.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
It wasn't James Cameron approved, so apparently there's a James Cameron approved one coming out because he approved of the 3D remaster for 3D releases, but not for a 4K UHD transfer because James Cameron, and I don't know how he wouldn't be aware, is very aware of how unhappy people are of that release. So that's coming out.
Right.
Well, it sounds like
Yeah.
there's probably going to be 2 releases, right? There's going to be the standard edition and then the James Cameron special edition 8 months later.
Yeah, and by the way, that Avatar, I bought that on sale for $18. The Way of Water, I went ahead and bit the bullet. That's a gorgeous steelbook. I'm glad I got it for $18.
I had it in my cart, bro, and then I took it off. I was like, I just couldn't. I mean, because I just got the UBA 20, and then there's some other steelbooks I'd picked up, and I just so many Black Friday deals right now. I was like, I can wait on it, but it is a nice steelbook. When I was looking at it in hand, it's very nice.
Yeah, it's very, very good. But yeah, and then I have another series of movies after Will talk about your Thanksgiving movie that I just want to reminisce about because I had a good time with these other movies.
Yeah. So the film I picked was, I think it was 1992, Scent of a Woman. Who I've seen this movie. I don't watch it every year. I think the last time I've seen it was like a couple years ago. But it's actually directed by Martin Brest, who you guys might also know. He did Beverly Hills Cop, Midnight Run. I never saw Meet Joe Black, but I remember hearing him being attached to that, so I'm pretty sure he directed that as well. But Beverly Hills Cop, I love. Midnight Run's pretty good as well. It's been years since I've seen Midnight Run, but Beverly Hills Cop is a classic.
Yeah.
So I actually didn't remember that he directed this movie, but I did a little research into it because it's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember most of the movie. I don't know if it would be considered a Thanksgiving movie. I know we were talking before, Gabe, and you said that it's actually one that's on like a lot of
lists, man. I was looking at different lists before this video, and it's like usually like top 5, top 10 of like Thanksgiving movies. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially the plot is it's Al Pacino, and then you have Chris O'Donnell, and you actually have Philip Seymour Hoffman in a supporting role, who's obviously Philip. He's great in every movie he's in. He's a really fantastic actor. But this is the movie that Al Pacino won an Oscar for his performance. He plays this retired, Army veteran. He's Colonel Frank. I think his name is Frank Slade. Who is he's a combat veteran. He's blinded by this apparent accident that happens when he's like fooling around at base camp or one of the Fort Bragg or wherever he's stationed, juggling grenades. And the story goes that he's juggling the grenades and one of them explodes, and that's how he becomes blind and he's discharged and all that. And because of that, he's kind of led this life of just he's become an alcoholic. He's just very disagreeable. He's hard to get along with. His family essentially can't stand to be with him or around him. So just this really kind of like sad character that was, once somebody that could have been something great, being a colonel in the army. And now he's kind of, just reduced to to the current state that he's in.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris O'Donnell plays, I think his name is Charlie. He's a prep school student at this New England prep school, and he essentially is approached and offered money to essentially watch Al Pacino's character for the weekend
Mm-hmm.
over Thanksgiving. And he accepts because he's trying to get money to travel back home to see his family for Christmas. So he ends up kind of traveling around, just kind of essentially babysitting Al Pacino's character for the weekend. But dude, it's such a great movie because I mean, it's a great drama. But not only that is, I mean, Al Pacino is fantastic in this movie. I think his performance in this is actually really good. This is like the first movie I think where I've seen him, other than movies like Scarface. Because I would say this, like Al Pacino's a great actor. I just think that in some movies, like he gets a lot of criticism from people for essentially overacting, right? That some of
Mm-hmm.
his roles are kind of like overinflated, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like in this role, he kind of just delivers a performance that's really heartfelt, and the whole movie, right? Everything he says, the things that he does, everything he does in this movie is justified, or I should say, is worthy of criticism. Like it's easy to criticize who he is and the things that he says and like how rude he is to people. Until the moment where they're at Thanksgiving dinner, at his family's residence or wherever it is they are, and he brings Charlie along, and he's pretty much instigating everybody at the dinner table, right? And it turns into
Mm-hmm.
this whole thing where I think the guy's name is Randy. I don't know if it's his nephew or his cousin. Randy just starts kind of diminishing him and making fun of the accident where he lost his sight, and that's all brought up. But the moment that kind of stuck with me, and this is a pivotal scene in the movie, is that Al Pacino's character allows all these insults to take place. He takes all these punches, right on the chin, and he just lets this guy kind of tear into him. But the second he mispronounces Charlie's name, I think he calls him Chucky or something. He does it twice. And the second time he does it, he kind of grabs the guy by the throat and slams him up against the wall. This
Mm-hmm.
whole scuffle, ensues. And it shows that there's a relationship there, and that he's grateful for Charlie. And Charlie kind of learns a thing from him. There's this whole other plot in the movie where I think it's Charlie and Philip Seymour Hoffman's character. They're witnesses to this prank that's kind of gone wrong, right? They try to prank the headmaster of the school that Charlie attends, and him and Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, they witness this. And Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, he's a straight up snitch. He like reports it, and I guess they try to bribe Charlie, from what I remember, with money to confess and to you know um, give them the names of the people that were involved, and he refuses to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads to this again, the other most important scene in the movie, and probably one of the scenes that gave Al Pacino the Oscar, was where he stands up and kind of defends him in court, right? In this kangaroo court, so to speak, where they're essentially trying to kick him out of the school if he doesn't give them the names. And Al Pacino's character stands up and pretty much defends him and claims that he's a man of integrity. So it's great because you really get to see how their relationship evolves over the course of the movie and how important they are to each other and the lessons that they teach each other. But yeah, it's just one of those movies that really stuck with me. I liked Al Pacino so much more after watching it. A couple years ago when I first saw it, and it's just one of those movies that stuck with me. But I think it's a good movie for the holidays, especially Thanksgiving, because again, it's like with Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, and even Charlie Brown. There's lessons in these movies that we can
Mm-hmm.
take from them, right? And it's just one of those movies that stuck with me, and yeah, I would highly recommend it. I don't have it on Blu-ray, and I don't believe it's out on 4K yet, but it's one of those movies that I would definitely pick up if they announced a 4K. In fact, I thought about buying
Yeah.
the Blu-ray, like I was saying to you guys beforehand, but I might hold off and see if they have a 4K. But yeah, that would be my pick.
Yeah,
Sounds
man,
very
it's been a
good.
few years. It's been a few years since I've seen it, and I remember
Yeah,
it is a very emotional movie. It has a lot of funny moments in it too,
yeah,
but it has a lot of emotional moments too, with especially with Al Pacino's character. And I think there was a scene where he was like maybe contemplating suicide or something,
yeah,
and that was a very powerful scene. Like it's just I
yeah,
think it's a really good. It's a good harmonious balance of just kind of like a feel good emotional funny, dramatic movie. It has all those different elements, and like you said, this is like a role where Al Pacino, he just kills it, dude. I mean, like he's over the top sometimes, but I mean, this character is supposed to be kind of over the top. I think that's why Al Pacino did so well in it. It's just like this is a very rambunctious, like over the top character, and he was the perfect actor for it. I had read somewhere a while back. I think Jack Nicholson was supposed to play Al Pacino's character.
Al Pacino's character. That's interesting.
Yeah, he turned it down. Apparently, that would have been interesting, but I don't know how that would have been because like this was what year was this? 92.
I think it was 92. If I
And
remember
what
correctly.
year was the one with Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson? Oh my God, I'm blanking out on the name of it.
Oh, you're talking
Um,
about is that A Few Good Men?
Few Good Men, yeah.
Mm.
I don't remember what year that was. I can
Yeah, I'm
double
like
check.
maybe that was just too close where he just played an angry colonel and he'd be
Yeah.
playing another kind of not a similar character, but
A Few
maybe
Good
that's
Men
why he
was the
turned it
same
down.
year.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
So maybe he
92.
turned it down for A Few Good Men. Who knows?
Few Good Men. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what I love about this movie is that, Al Pacino's character, there's a scene at the Thanksgiving dinner, like when he's leaving, that same
Mhm.
scene. I think it's his brother that kind of consults him. He comes up to him, he kind of gives him an embrace, and he looks at his brother and he goes, I'm no fucking good. And he's like, I never have been and never will. And it's it's so depressing to hear that, because he's
Yeah.
just admitting that he's a failure. But it makes that other monologue at the school when they're having the trial to decide Charlie's fate all that much more special because he sees a future, and so he's willing to do whatever it takes to defend that. Right,
Mhm.
so that's such an interesting dynamic. I mean, and I want to give credit to Chris O'Donnell as well because Al Pacino gets a lot of praise for his role in
Yeah.
this movie, but Chris O'Donnell's just as good. And I mean, I don't know if I'm not one of those guys that's like, Chris O'Donnell. He's not in a lot of movies that I've seen, right, that I can think of
Mhm.
off the top of my head. I mean, to be honest, the only other one I think of is the Batman films. But other than those, it's hard to remember what else he's been in, at least right off the top of my head. But he is
Yeah.
also fantastic in this movie. I mean, honestly, I mean, it's really like a companion piece. I would say it's
Mhm.
not necessarily focused solely on Al Pacino's character. I'd say they both kind of carry this movie. I don't think you
100%.
can have one without the other. So, and that's a testament to how well it was written and how well they thought about these characters. It's actually, I'm pretty sure it's a remake of an Italian film of the same name from like the 70s, which I haven't
Really?
seen, but I'm interested. Yeah,
Let's
I think
see.
they changed the character names and they changed some things around, but I guess you could say it's like a soft remake or a soft reboot of like a 1970, like mid 70s Italian movie of the same name. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to see if I can check that out at some point if it's even available because I'm curious. It's always fascinating to me to figure out that like movies from like the 70s, 80s, and 90s are like remakes from like older movies because like we look at remakes today
Yeah.
as like, oh well, they're gonna remake The Fog or they're remaking Halloween and vice versa. We can go down the list of like shitty remakes, but it's interesting that a lot of like great movies from like the 80s and 90s especially are remakes of films from
Scarface.
like yeah, I mean Scarface. Yeah, that's another perfect
Yeah.
example with Al Pacino. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I had no idea that Scent of a Woman was a remake. So I'm interested
Yeah.
to check out the original, but I don't know whether or not it's as good as the 90s
I
version.
mean,
But
it looks like it was nominated for best foreign language film
okay,
in
what year was that?
1974.
Was that
1974,
1974?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, it looks like it was well received. There's not a lot on it though. I'd be curious. Yeah, I'm curious to watch it too.
Hmm.
Interesting. That's a
But
good
yeah,
movie though, man.
that's my pick. Chase, I know you had some other movies you wanted to talk about. So I'm gonna hand it over to you and let you take the reins.
Yeah. So I feel like I saw a turkey in this movie, so I think it's appropriate to bring it up for the Thanksgiving episode. But I just watched the new. Well, let me preface. I had seen Rise of the Planet of the Apes in theaters way back when that released because I was a mega fan. That was my favorite movie growing up. Was the original Planet of the Apes. I loved it. I will never forget. The scene at the very end. I mean, this isn't a spoiler. This is like it's well known
Been so
what
long,
happens.
man. Yeah.
Yeah,
You've had 50
you're
years to
good.
watch this.
Yeah.
Almost 60. So whenever they go at the end and then he sees the Statue of Liberty kind of sunken down and stuff, I will never forget. I was like, whoa, that's
Yeah.
the Statue of
Yeah.
Liberty, and especially at that time, that had to have been super shocking, you know, to go into theaters and see it. So that's like one of my all-time favorite movies. And I always loved Rise. I'd seen it at least 10, 15 times, and I just never got to Dawn or War. I think I always heard great things about it, but maybe I was just worried that it wouldn't live up to Rise, no matter how many good things I heard about it. And I'm here to officially declare to the world that Dawn and War of the Planet of the Apes are visual, cinematic, storytelling masterpieces. All three. That is one of the most flawless trilogies I've seen in a while. Dawn was absolutely fantastic. If you have had a dream about monkeys dual-wielding machine guns while riding on horseback, this is your dreams fantasized into reality. And it's great. Like, you know, it's fantastic. You know, the story, the emotions that they portray, and especially the CGI in these movies have to hold up for the next 50, 60 years. You know, the amount of work they put into those. I think War's a little bit softer on the CGI. I just noticed, like, it just didn't look as fluid, but there was a lot more going on in War than that it seemed like there was in Dawn, too, at least just on the individual, like, monkey, you know, and the apes and stuff like that. But yeah, I just wanted to shout those movies out, and Bullet Train. I watched that. That movie was just so stupid fun, just dumb fun.
Yeah.
I liked it, man.
You know, I want to bring this up. It's not spoilerish, but like somehow Brad Pitt was the worst character in that movie. Like him as an actor. You know what I mean? Like compared to everybody else's charisma around him.
Yeah. I agree. I was more interested in the side in all the other characters.
Yeah,
I wasn't
exactly.
really enthralled with what he was up to.
Yeah, and it makes sense because you know they tell you at the end who he's supposed to be acting like, you know, at that like little 5-second reveal that he's not the assassin that he hired, and then it shows you guys know what I'm talking about. Like he was supposed to essentially be somebody else. But I'm a huge fan of Brian Henry Taylor, the guy with the blonde hair in there next to Aaron Taylor Johnson. I loved him since Atlanta way back in 2014-15 whenever that show came out, and I will watch anything with him in it. And yeah, that was my only complaint about that movie. Somehow Brad Pitt was the worst actor in that movie. You know, like his charisma didn't match almost anybody else's, even some of the side characters and the characters who would have been on screen for 15 seconds. But I mean, it's still great. You know,
his characters were just so crazy that, like, in comparison, like I always saw Brad Pitt in that movie as like he's just along for the ride, and like you know all these crazy characters are like coming in, and he's like, "What the fuck?" Like, I don't necessarily think it's his fault. I think it's just the way the movie's written.
Yeah.
But it's a
he's
fun
kind of
movie.
just thrown in there, right? I mean, the other characters are much more entertaining. He's kind of just like it's almost like we're kind of seeing it like through his perspective, right? And we're kind of like taking a back seat because he's kind of just in the middle of this, right? And I feel like that's why it kind of works for me anyway, because I can kind of like relate to his character just kind of getting involved in this like, you know, crazy, you know, situation where everyone else is they're just those other characters are just way more interesting. But that works for me.
And the accents, like, holy cow, Aaron Taylor Johnson's accent and Henry Taylor's accent, golly, they pulled it off. I had to double check and make sure. I was like, man, was he born in Britain? Because he's in Atlanta. So I was like, man, where, you know, like, where's he from? But they pulled it off so well. But yeah, shout out to that trilogy. If you were curious about either of those, immaculate 4K transfers. I do hope that the Apes trilogy gets something redone in the future. Those are only on 66s, and I think it could use some justice on a BD 100, especially for the runtime on there, so it's not as compressed. Bullet Train was visually just amazing, you know, visually amazing. So yeah, I wanted to shout those out, and yeah, that concludes that. Those are some fun movies I managed to get to watch over the last couple weeks.
Those are fun movies, man, and I'm glad that you saw them because I think that that's probably one of the, at least for me, like the last decade or two, like one of my favorite trilogies was the Rise and War. I don't know what they call it, Planet of the Apes trilogy, I guess.
Yeah, the Apes
and the new one's coming out. The what is it called? The
Kingdom
of the Planet, but it's a different director, so Matt Reeves isn't making that one. So I'm interested to see it. I like the trailer a lot, and it looks like it takes place a few decades after the third installment. So. And you're getting the vibe that like there's that beach scene where you're kind of like, oh man, it's getting kind of closer to like the original installment. So it was cool to see that. So I'm excited for that movie. They've all been flawless. So
were they all directed by the same director?
No,
no. Matt Reeves directed the second and third. Yeah, I
The second
forgot who.
and third. Okay.
Yeah, I forgot who directed the first one.
It was
Okay.
actually he did because I had looked it up so many different times. Rupert Wyatt. He's the guy that did The Gambler, Captivity State, and
Mm,
Escapist. Those are his only
Oh, okay.
movies.
I've
Yeah.
seen The
interesting.
Gambler. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm not gonna sit here and pass judgment, especially like Matt Reeves had next to no movies under his belt. You know, that's what put him on.
Yeah.
Like he had some things,
Yeah.
but these, the second and third Apes movie is what put him up there. It's just
Mhm.
I mean, I'm kind of sad that he's not gonna come and do Kingdom because he brought so much emotion to those apes that
Yeah.
Rupert Wyatt gave him like a springboard to, launch off
Mm.
of. And I wish he'd come back, but I mean, at the same time, I love Rise. I would have been fine with Rupert
Mm.
Wyatt doing all three. But yeah, I had only ever seen, I've seen Cloverfield. I forget Matt Reeves did that all the time.
He did do that. I forget about that movie.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of Cloverfield. I'm in the minority. But when
Really?
it comes to, yeah, it's just, I don't like found footage that much. It's really one of my
Mm.
least interesting or favorite anything, really. At this, it has to be done to a perfect T. And
Mm.
I don't know, maybe I just got to it too late. I just watched it for the first time this year. So maybe
Yeah.
that's why.
And this one, the new one, it's going to be Wes Ball. He directed the Maze Runner movies, and that's pretty much all he's had under his belt was the Maze Runner trilogy.
Hmm.
So it's going to be interesting. And I read my brother sent me this just because he's a huge Legend of Zelda fan. It sounds like Wes Ball's also directing a Legend of Zelda movie,
Mm.
live
They're
action.
taking a huge
possibly.
flyer on this guy.
Dude. I know. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, really.
that's he's going to get a lot of people either to love him or picketing outside his house is what's going to happen.
Yeah. Because those Maze
but
Runner
yeah.
movies are hit or miss. Like I
I'm not a big
remember
fan
that
of him.
I watched the first one. I never watched the second or third one. It's just it was
They're
I
cool.
read the
It
books.
came out of the time of like Hunger Games,
Yeah.
so it was like, you know what I mean. It was kind of like
Yeah.
it was like the same vibe again, and it's just like I don't know. Maybe if Maze Runner had come out first, I don't know,
Yeah.
but we'll see. I know we were also going to talk about Thanksgiving real quick.
Oh yeah, you guys saw that.
Yeah, Will and I saw it. I know it's no horror November for you, Chase.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's if you
Um,
can tell, I'm shaking a little bit because I've been going through withdrawals.
Will, I don't know if you want to start it off, man, because I know you already did a letterboxd review for it, so your thoughts are a little bit more formulated than mine.
Yeah, I'll start off. Happy to do that. Yeah, I liked it. I'll say this, and I didn't mention this in my letterbox review, but I talked to some other community members on our Discord, and I've never really been a big fan of Eli Roth's filmography.
Mhm.
The Cabin Fever, the first one, that was fun. The Hostel movies, they didn't really do it for me, right?
Same.
Like Eli Roth is one of those guys that I appreciate and respect him for his knowledge and his place in the genre that he's kind of carved out for himself. And I mentioned that in the letterbox review. I think this movie kind of finds itself a nice little a nice little like niche spot in the slasher genre, right? And
Mhm.
it was good to finally experience a movie where I could actually sit there and say, okay, like this is something that I've wanted Eli Roth to make even before the Thanksgiving trailer for the Grindhouse films that Tarantino and Rodriguez did, right? Because that's where this all stems from. And Gabe, I know you haven't seen that original trailer for those
Yeah.
movies, so I'm interested to hear your take on it. But I was kind of going into it with that mindset anyway. But it was just nice to kind of watch a movie from Eli Roth and actually get the sense that he actually had a really great time making this because it shows. This movie's a lot of fun. The kills are very well done. They're very well executed. There's a lot of practical effects, which are right up my alley. I love that stuff. The final girl was surprisingly like relatable. You know, I actually kind of cared about her by the end of the movie, and not necessarily her family. I don't want to get into spoilers, but I could understand her position and everything, and you know how contradicting she was. Kind of just thrown in and had to kind of deal with the fallout of all this. But I liked what they did with her. I liked the directing style. I thought it was fun. The kills were gruesome, but at the same time, they had like this comedic flair to them. They were just funny. You know, it was just a good time, you know, and it gets a bit over the top at times, but it just kind of indulges in that, which I like, you know, and a lot of
Yeah.
people will kind of say, oh, it's stupid. It's like, you know, but a lot of slasher movies are good fun, right? Like I don't judge a slasher movie like I judge every other film, right? Or every other genre, I should say, because slashers are kind of inherently over the top at times and ridiculous. So I went into this kind of expecting that. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, it went by quick. I think it's like an hour. I want to say it's like an hour and 40 minutes or an hour and 41 minutes or
Yeah,
something like
it's a
that. It
quick
went by
movie.
fast. It's a quick movie. So I went last night. My theater wasn't crazy. I went at an earlier time. I usually try to get there for like 7 o'clock, 7:30 showings because that's usually when you get better crowds. But I kind of wanted to just low key kind of experience it without having to listen to like, angsty teenagers in the front row or anything like
I
that.
got
So
that.
it was a good experience. Yeah. Yeah, you got that more than I did. But yeah, I'd highly recommend it. Chase, I think you'll really enjoy it. It's right up your
Yeah.
alley. Again, there's a playfulness to it, and you can just tell that it was so much fun to make, and that really shines through in the movie. So I appreciate it. And I'll say this, it's the most entertaining movie I think that I've seen from Eli Roth. So take that for what it is. But
I
Yeah.
want to throw this
I
out there while you're on that track. I think this will make you guys
yeah.
laugh. So Edgar Wright, I follow him religiously on Instagram. So he went to the 35 millimeter premiere. I forget where it was, but he was with Eli Roth, and he was essentially saying, he's like, damn him for making this movie, because I guess Edgar Wright made a little short in Grindhouse too. He's like, now the next thing I'm gonna have to deal with the rest of my lifetime is people asking me to make a full length feature version.
Make his. Yeah.
To
Yeah.
make his. So I thought that'd make you guys laugh. So
Oh
Yeah.
man,
love him. Yeah.
that's
And
hilarious.
this,
Edgar Wright's
this
cool,
is
man.
something that fans have asked for too. So and again,
Mhm.
I'm not really a fan. I don't like fan service when it's like overdone. But this has been something that a lot of people, like Grindhouse fans from way back in the day, have been asking for. I mean, he's probably gotten this question hundreds of thousands of times by now at conventions and just in general. So
Mm.
the fact that they actually gave him and the fact that he actually got backing to like make this a full length feature is pretty cool. So like good job on Sony and the production for allowing him to make this, because I thought it was a pretty solid movie. So
Yeah, I enjoyed it, man. Like you said, you guys actually told me that it was uh trailer for the Grindhouse thing, and I had no idea. I
yeah.
just saw the trailer. I'm like, this looks pretty cool. It looks like a good movie. So I actually went into it not seeing the trailer, and I had a good time with it, man. I think I read your letterbox review. Well, the 3.5 out of 5 stars. I agree with it like
Mm,
100%. I think you and I saw eye to eye on it, and it's
mm,
it's a fun movie. The first 15 minutes of that movie are freaking gold. Like it's hilarious. It's funny. It's violent. It's just like it sets the tone for the movie spectacularly well.
mhm.
And I think like what you said, the lead girl, her name's Nell. I'm gonna butcher this last
The
name.
actress is
Verlac.
named Nell Verlacki, yeah, or Verlac.
Yeah, Verlac.
I
Yeah,
think her name's
she.
Jessica in the movie. I forget, but
Yeah,
I think
she
it's
did a
Jessica.
great job, man. I think I
Yeah.
don't see like a filmography for her. I don't know if she's done other things, but um, I think after this she will. I think she did a great job as the leading lady. Like you said, a lot of the kills are gruesome. Something I forgot to mention too is the jump scares in this, man. Like there were actually like some jump scares that got me a few times, and I'm like, holy shit! Like
Yeah.
I know we were complaining about jump scares when we were watching I
Exorcist.
was Exorcist, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a few times, I had this guy that like this dude sitting next to me. He's like 6'5". He was a super big dude, and it was funny because him and I were like jumping at the same time. Like there were just some jump scares that I was just not expecting.
Yeah.
Um,
There was a
and yeah,
surprising amount of tension in this.
yeah, like the build up to some of the kills were pretty cool, and it's just a fun little flick, dude. Like I don't think it's like a horror masterpiece. I know a lot of people are coming out of it saying like this is like one of the best horror movies they've seen in years. I'd say it's
Mm,
like it's a fun slasher movie. You know what I mean? I liked all the kills. It was an hour 40 minutes runtime. You're in, you're out. The twist at the end's kind of the reveal with the killer's like okay. I guess that's my
mm,
only like critique with it really, but
yeah.
it's a fun movie, and I like you said, well, I appreciate a lot of the practical effects. There wasn't really much CGI, if any.
Mhm.
It's a fun movie. You're gonna have a good time watching it. And I was thinking when I was watching it, Chase, I was like, Chase is gonna like this movie. I was like,
Mm,
this
This could
is
be my movie
totally
of
in
the
his
year.
wheelhouse. I'm like, this is in your wheelhouse, bro. But I like it just because it embodies like when it is campy, it embodies it. It's like we know that we're
yeah.
just being super campy. We know we're being funny, and we're gonna throw in some gore. Crazy amounts of the kills are just so unique too. They're like so weird. They're all like
Mm,
Thanksgiving themed kind of kills. Like it's really really cool. And just
yeah.
the aesthetic of the I don't know what we call him, the Pilgrim guy or what what's his name?
I
Like
think John
John
Carver,
Carver. Yeah,
The
John
Legend of
Carver.
John Carver. Yeah.
I love the aesthetics with the mask and the
Mhm.
axe. Like it's and he's quick. You know what I mean? He's
Yeah.
like super quick, super aggressive. Um, and there was just a lot of moments. My wife was like, she was laughing her ass off for half of the movie just because like a lot of the moments, even between the characters, are funny. Even when they're like in dialogue and like just funny stuff's happening. It's a fun movie. And like what you said, Eli Roth, I'm not a big fan of his filmography.
Yeah.
I don't have any hate towards the guy. Just a lot of the movies he's made just don't really vibe with me. But he's a
Right.
very passionate dude. I could tell that he loves film. I think he really cares about it as an art form. I just never
Mhm.
resonated with his filmography. But this is definitely my favorite Eli Roth
Yeah.
movie, 100%. Like, I'm glad he made it. I'm glad that he stuck to his guns, and it sounds like he really didn't kind of gravitate away from that original Grindhouse trailer that he made. So,
Mhm.
um, super fun movie, man. I'll probably put it on my top 10 for the
Yeah.
year. It's not like a masterpiece in
Okay.
horror, but it
Yeah.
would probably fit somewhere in my top 10 of the year.
I
Sounds
think it's
pretty
getting a
good.
lot of praise from people for being different too, right? Because we talked
Hmm.
about that with like Halloween and like some of our past episodes where like a lot of people are just in a place now where anything that's just different is automatically kind of like a win for them, right?
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
again, I agree with you. I don't think it's like one of the best horror movies like that. That's all a
Yeah.
Yeah.
little much, but it's a really well made horror movie. And I will say for anybody listening, if there's anybody from New England here, specifically around like Rhode Island or southeastern Massachusetts, you guys will really appreciate the Bostonian or the Massachusetts
Accent.
the accents in this movie. I mean, that's kind of why it resonated, and especially like those more comedic scenes, like they just resonated with me so much because I'm like,
Yeah.
I know so many fucking people that sound like this, and just kind of picturing them like like as these characters, it's like it just kind of hit
Yeah.
home for me. So I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. So again, that probably it's a little bit biased just because of where I live, like in the country. But yeah, it was really well done. I mean, he captured the whole vibe of like Plymouth, Massachusetts, really well too. Like with the
Hmm.
atmosphere, he did a good job. So he really did his homework. So I'm happy, and I
And
hope it's a
a,
success.
l- a lot of I know we're closing out here, but a lot of like little sprinkled odes to classic horror films. Like you could see
Hmm.
like the opening shot, you're like, oh, that's maybe
Halloween, yeah,
Halloween, or this is Friday the 13th, or like you could just see it like sprinkled throughout the movie where he just took a lot of motivation. And I liked it. It wasn't like he was ripping off from it, right? He was just like throwing it
right,
in there, sprinkling it throughout, saying like, I appreciate what Halloween did. I appreciate what Friday the 13th did, and he's just kind of
yeah,
sprinkling it throughout the movie, which I appreciated. So while doing his
yeah.
own unique thing at the same time. So it's a fun
Hmm.
movie. I don't think it's like I think it was like a 90 something percent on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think it's a 9 out of 10, but
I'll come in
um
and declare it a 9 out of 10 after I watch it. Watch.
I'm
It's
sure
gonna
you'll
be 10.
probably maybe put a 9.5 out of 10, who knows? But
Probably. I have a question for you
it's
guys though, because
yeah.
you both said that you
Yeah.
guys aren't huge fans of Eli Roth's filmography, but
Mhm.
and I haven't gone through super extensively on his filmography, but there is one
Mm.
of my, like, I'd probably put in my top 30, 40, maybe 50 if I really think about it. Clown. Did you guys ever watch Clown by Eli Roth?
No, I
I
don't
don't
think
even
so.
know which one's that.
That's the one where the dude gets bit by a clown and starts turning into a clown. That movie's
Oh,
great. Like it's not as goofy as
what?
that sounds. Yeah, a dude like he is a clown as his profession, then he gets bit and he gets like this
Mm.
clown infection, so he starts turning into a clown. Um,
That's interesting.
it's very interesting, and I have to say because he did Green
Oh,
Inferno.
he produced it and
Oh,
he was
he produced
starring in
that.
it. Yeah, he didn't. He directed. It's directed by
Oh,
John Watts.
well, that's probably why it was good. So I've never really seen a lot of like his directed filmography, so that's probably
Mm.
why. Because like also the Last Exorcism, if I'm right, the one
Mhm.
where that one's a found footage movie. I adore that movie. That is a genuine
Okay.
9 out
Produced
of
that,
10.
right?
Yeah, he produced that one. He didn't direct it.
Yeah.
I think he does a lot of really well-made production movies, or produced movies. I feel like
Hmm.
now that you mentioned that, I could have sworn he directed that forever. But yeah, Clown's great. Shout out Clown. That's a well-produced movie by him. I wanted to throw
The
that out
Last
there.
Exorcism, that's the found footage one, right?
Yep, that one's great.
Is that the one where that dude says he's gonna get in front of the church and talk about lemon something? Like
Yeah,
lemon, but
like he's a false exorcist where he just goes
yeah,
around
yeah, I
scamming
remember
people.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I saw that in theaters. It was actually a fun movie.
it was good. It was
I didn't
different
hate
enough
it.
for me.
Yeah, but
But
yeah, I
yeah,
mean, hopefully Eli Roth. And like, we were talking about this before getting on. Looks like he's directing the new Borderlands movie, which
I'm down for it.
I You're down for it? I don't know, man. I think it's just Borderlands is just too chaotic and wacky. I don't know like how you're able to encapsulate that into like a whole movie, but
I don't know.
I
I
don't know.
mean, the guy that did David Leitch, the guy who did Deadpool and Bullet Train, I think he would have been a great director for that.
For sure. I think more so than Eli Roth, to be honest with you. I feel like it's kind of like, I think Will had mentioned this, it's kind of like outside his wheelhouse a little bit in terms of like, you know, the action, the special effects. Like, I know Eli Roth is more toward, like, he has a lot of kind of more claustrophobic kind of movies. And this is kind of like a balls to the wall crazy movie. But who knows? He might do well. I don't want to, you know,
Yeah, we'll see.
put bad omens there. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Borderlands movie.
I'm a
Probably
huge
next year or
Borderlands
two.
fan, but I mean, they just have to do it so specifically, especially with like the comic book, you know, inked out like
Yeah.
outlines of the characters and stuff like that. Like it's got to be just fully chaotic, you know. Yeah, especially like the art style's got to be done well, and that game series has one of the biggest cult followings out of really any modern video game franchise that isn't like
Yeah.
AAA. I mean, I would consider that a AAA title, you know, but I mean, it's still relatively not everybody plays it. But yeah, Borderlands, if you don't do that well, oh my God, Eli Roth, like you better ride this high of Thanksgiving for as long as you can, man.
Yeah, dude.
because-
For real.
yeah.
Dude, I'm with you though. I love Borderlands. I mean, I still have them. I haven't played them and it's been like a year and a half since
A
I last
while,
played.
yeah.
What is it,
Yeah.
3, I think? But I love those games. Those
great.
games are like right up my alley.
Yeah. They're fun, they're quirky, they're comical, they have amazingly well written characters. I think Jack Black's going to play Claptrap, if I remember right.
Oh yeah, I remember that announcement.
I'm down
Oh,
for
shit.
that. Yeah, I'm down for that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I love Jack Black. Like I've literally never been disappointed in anything he's done. Even with Bowser in the Super Mario movie, I was kind of like, why? You know, like why Jack Black? But again, I got to stop doubting the guy because he does super well in anything.
He does good work, man. Hopefully, like I said, I don't want to put bad omens out there. It's just kind of like an odd pairing in my opinion. Like I feel like there's maybe some other directors that could have taken that on, but we'll see. I'm just like very apprehensive about any video game adaptation just because they usually all suck.
Well,
Hey,
you know,
man,
you
give
never
Sonic a
know. I
shout
mean,
out.
you never truly know.
What's that?
You got to
think
give
you
my
guys
boy,
both-
give my boy Sonic a shout out.
Oh, Sonic! I
The
still haven't seen
flawless
Sonic,
Oh
dude.
my God. There's no way.
I will.
Man.
I'll do you before. Let's say before maybe the month is out. I will watch Sonic.
Yeah, Sonic 1, it's okay, so let me just preface this while we're on the thing of, because people in the server know how obsessed I am with these damn movies. So the first one is only good because of how bad that trailer was. So then you go in there and you're like, oh my God, this is going to be a 1 out of 10, you know?
Yeah.
So then you end up getting something very family friendly, very coherent, very fun, a really great solid first entry. Like I think I gave it a 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd after I went and saw it when it came out. So then
Holy
Sonic
shit.
2 came out, and it's kind of like the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, right? I didn't like that movie, but that movie wasn't made for me because I'm not a fan of the series. That movie was definitely made for fans of the series. Sonic 2, I went and saw 5 times in its theatrical run. I absolutely
Damn.
love that movie, man.
Holy
It was
shit.
made
Holy
for me, dude. It was made for me. Like, it being a huge hardcore, like for example, like Sonic Superstars just went on sale for $30 at Best Buy. Like as soon as we get off of here, I'm running to go get it because I refuse to
Run
pay
over there and
$60. I refuse to pay $60 for a 5-hour game, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
go get that. But Sonic 2 was just from front to back just made for me. It has some pacing issues, but it's still one of my favorite movies and the most fun I've personally had in a movie in a long time. Like in theaters, like I went and saw in Dolby Center, everything. Great movie. Shout out Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Everybody in the world needs to watch that. It's made for everybody from newborns to 99-year-old people. Y'all need to watch it.
I'll try to watch before the month's out. I just haven't watched it, man. I need to catch up on a lot of movies, actually, especially with all these Black Friday sales. I bought a whole bunch of movies, a lot of blind buys too that I haven't seen. So
It's $8 at Best Buy.
the first one,
The second one. You can skip the
the
first
second
one,
one?
but then you'll miss out on Jim Carrey's performance as Eggman because I mean he's in both of them, but like that's the perfect casting.
No,
Man,
I can never jump into the sequel and not watch the original. So
Yeah,
I
I'm
gotta
the same
watch
way.
the first one first.
you'll love
But
it.
I'll check it out. We should probably do maybe an episode. I mean, we should probably let everyone know too. Like next week is Thanksgiving.
yeah.
We're probably not doing an episode next week, guys. Just
Yeah,
to
we'll be
let
on
you guys
hiatus.
know. Yeah, a little bit of a hiatus. We might try to do some shorts. I know that Oppenheimer's coming out next week, so we might do a little short kind of unboxing the steelbook for that. Maybe even if we get a chance to watch it, do a review on the 4K transfer, which I'm sure is going to be phenomenal because the GOAT is doing it. So
Add him to your shrine.
Oh boy.
the GOAT, yeah, add it to my shrine. And Yeah, maybe we can do a podcast. I think maybe sometime talk about video game movies. I think that'd be interesting, just because there's so many of them and where they hit the
Yeah,
mark, where they don't. I think that would be cool to talk about at some
there's a
point.
lot of fun to be had with that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
You're gonna have to
But
give me a whole hour for Sonic too.
oh,
Mhm.
100%. Probably be a whole dude. If you get me on Last of Us, I could talk about that for like 3 hours. But all right, guys. Yeah, we appreciate you guys listening. Thank you for hearing us out on our little Thanksgiving movies that we like, and the tangents with Sonic and Planet of the Apes and Thanksgiving and all that stuff. We appreciate you guys listening, and we will catch you guys in 2 weeks.
See you guys in 2 weeks.
See you guys. Thank you.